Good morning. It's Monday, more or less 10-ish, a little bit late because, it's Monday. And it's time for relaxing painting with Dice and Dungeons. So what should I do today? So I'm sort of, but not quite prepared for this session. So it's going to be, even a little bit, obviously unscripted than usual. On Friday, I finished Muriel. Muriel is a Bollywog and is a major NPC character on our Dice and Dungeons campaign. We met her once before in the sewers. Muriel is a druid and makes excellent curries. And I think Zoria or Nines might actually have even gotten a recipe from her during one of those. Anyway, we're going back in the sewers, which I know we are doing because I painted tons and tons of sewer tiles that are supposed to be used in our campaign, so I wouldn't have done that unless we were going in the sewers. So that's what we'll be doing. And we might meet Muriel there because this was printed out a week or so ago and I was asked to paint it, and so there we are. So I hope Muriel is well, and that when we meet up with her it'll be an interesting encounter. I also, right at the end, painted a little otter. This otter represents my pet. I have a pet otter named Ardamore. Ardamore was made sentient by Zoria, and if you'd like to meet Ardamore, we actually have an Ardamore puppet now that Ardamore is sentient and can participate in the campaign. Every once in a while, Ardamore comes out and says hello. Ardamore is adorable and sweet, and is still baffled by the reality that they're facing. And so I'm trying to waste some time here as I figure out what to do next. I've got 3 things I can work on. Actually, there's a 4th one, but I won't go in. I could make doppelganger Muriels, because there were a couple of prints that didn't work. Her staff didn't work out, and so I used those as tests for different colors, different color combinations. I could make a doppelganger Muriel, or I could make stacked cats. These are 3 stacked cats that are pretending to be a humanoid. I could try to fix the camera so that it's, try. There we go. I can work on whatever this is. Okay, very big beast. Doesn't seem to have any eyes. That's always an important thing, because if there aren't any eyes, then I have to try to paint them. This looks fairly straightforward. This needs to be fixed here. That needs to be, I know. We're keeping the rustic look here, the rustic look of the Knot Studio. Did we ever get an extension cable? I don't know. It looks like the cable's been moved. Like it's been moved over to the side, but it's still kind of tight. I should make it. You did. I wonder where it went. Maybe we can work on that sometime. Oh, if it's in this room, then it's lost. Okay. If I ever did a panorama of what's going on here, this is a mess descending into chaos, is pretty much what it is. Look at that. Oh, I was wondering where that went. See, that kind of thing. If I look around, I kind of find things that never got put away. Yeah, this is not one of those how to do it painting shows where you keep your studio neat and you know where everything is because you put it away. You put it away where it was before so that you can find it again. This is just pull it out, use it, set it down, and then every once in a while when things get so out of control you can't find anything, you try to put things away again. That doesn't last very long. Yeah, I think that's part of the charm of the stream, isn't it? Is that you just, yeah, what it's going to be like today. It's Monday. This is unscripted. It's unprepared even. Oh, and then there's this Wyvern. This is pretty cool. It's a little complicated. It's got whatever this is on top, all sorts of little spikes. This really should be done by somebody who's very good at like shading. Someone like Nicole, but I'm doing the stream and she's not, so I might do that. So I think it's going to be either the Wyvern or the whatever this is. Not sure. Well, the cable at least isn't right across my face. There's that. I guess that's good. Looks like the music is working. Stuff's actually working today, which is a little bit of a surprise, because there were 2 software updates. When I turned things on today, it said, "Would you like to reset your entire computer?" No, I want to just keep doing what it was doing before. I don't want to set it up. And every time there's a Windows update, it thinks that it's a brand new computer and I need to reset everything up. So I don't know. I guess I could work on this Wyvern as I have described in the past. If it doesn't work out, if it ends up just looking bad, I can just reprime the whole thing. Anyway, I'm looking at this, trying to figure it out. I asked, what colors, if I do the Wyvern, what colors, and it's sort of a red and bronze theme. So I'll only be painting the wings and the body, various shades of red. I'm going to try to keep it to no more than three shades. It's got these little horns and claws. Traditionally, we kind of paint these like in a ivory or sand color, and then use brown on it. I think because I'm going to paint them gray with a black wash, I think, instead. And then the mouth, bright red tongue, that kind of thing. And teeth. I guess the teeth will just be ivory. Usually with these, I would start like with the mouth, just to get that done, and then try to get the teeth in. I'll definitely paint the teeth before the rest of the body, so I could paint down to the tiny little teeth. Yeah, so being the thing about this is this is designed to sit on a stand. There's a hole in the bottom here, so it's flying. So I got a stick, because I don't know where the stand is, and I think, this will work. I'm going to just hold it on that. The stick is longer than it needs to be. I might just break it off if I find a convenient length. So I'll be, holding it like sometimes by the body when I'm, to get a little bit more leverage. Sometimes I'll hold it by the stick. About breaking it off, it just broke. This balsa wood that I used to do radio-controlled airplanes, RC planes, and always had little bits of balsa wood around for the construction. Well, we'll see. If that doesn't hold on, this is like a narrow, it's half as thick as it is wide. This one is like that, and this might hold a little bit better. We'll see how this goes. Well, I haven't broken any parts off yet, so that's a start. So let's do a flip. And the flip, since I broke this off, I'm going to mark this. It's going to be, one side has a dot, and the other side doesn't, so we can tell which way it lands. It landed on its edge. Really, it really did. Neither side. That's dot down on its edge again. What are the odds of that? And now it's on the floor. Dot up. I'm not going to get it. Yeah. So let's say that this is going to be what I'm doing today, and then that's not working. We'll have to try this stick. This is very soft, and so I'm just pushing it up into the hole on the bottom without sanding it down, thinking that maybe that would help hold it. Get enough friction in there. Yeah, I almost busted off the little antennae thing, the little horn things, because, you know, it's Monday and I'm not careful. Yeah, there. Oh, we have an innovation today, too. There, you know, that's why I need the OO button. I did talk with our DM, with Alexis, and said, you know, there's an idea. Every once in a while there's ideas, and one idea would be to get an OO button that I could push, like when I drop the thing I'm flipping on the floor. And she said that might actually be possible to do that. So would have had an OO already today. Might even be able to get multiple OO buttons, you know, like a little OO, like dropping the thing I was flipping on the floor could be like a little but, you know, spilling a jar of paint as I'm trying to scrape off the stuff around the rim and dumping it all over the place could be a big OO. It could be a Be back in 10 minutes after I get a bunch of stuff to clean it up. Yeah, I hope you're rambling my dissembling. I hope you're enjoying my rambling. It's Monday. Okay, there are some days, you know, I usually have like 1 cup of coffee a day, and that's usually enough. Isn't that nice? It's got cream in it. But today is a 2 cup of coffee day. Have I avoided doing anything long enough today? I don't know. Oh yeah, the innovation of it. I have a new cup for washing brushes. This is the old one. You know, it's been well used. I'm not throwing it away. I might, you know, can still use it. But anyway, yeah, we got new containers for some sort of yogurt-like substance. And it looked like, well, there, you know, that'll be good for this. So we'll see. It's got a bigger volume. So there's that. Yeah, anyway, I need to pick some red colors. I have this scarlet red. That's always a good color. And I've also got a whole bunch of other red colors in this chart. I can call them up. There we go. They've got flat red. That's pretty nice. This dark vermilion is pretty decent. And then there are some sort of slightly oranger ones that maybe, you know, with a wash on them might look okay. Red from, I can't see that. That red is, to me, a red. The other ones, I don't know what the originals ones were. I think those are actually pudding cups. Really. these look much more orange on my monitor than otherwise. So the scarlet red is sort of dark. It's a little darker than this flat red. This dark vermilion looks like it would be good. So if I did the support structures in the wings, if I did those in the darker red, the scarlet red, and then use the dark vermilion, I'm wondering if there's enough contrast there. So I'm going to get 3 colors. I'm going to get the scarlet red, the dark vermilion, and the amaranth. Those are the 3 I'm going to use, and hopefully they'll look okay. Hopefully I'll find them too. Here's the dark vermilion. And bloody red. That one has like a gloss to it. I don't like that very much. Here's the amaranth. Okay, well, I'm going to start with the scarlet red. This is the old bottle. I know I've got a whole new one. Keep this out in case this doesn't work. There's a lot left in here, but it kind of dried up. And so I put some thinner in it, and we're going to stir it up and see if it continues to work or not. So I'm going to be doing the support structure here. Okay, not the webbing on the wings, but the support of the wings in the scarlet red. And I'll be doing that both on the bottom and the top. And then I'm going to be using the dark vermilion for the webbing between. And I'm going to get all of this done first and then carefully paint up to it. And I probably will do just like one on the bottom of the dark vermilion to see how they look together, keeping in mind that I will be attempting, hopefully with some success, to do decent shading on all of this later. So far, not having broken anything. So far, this is a success today. I haven't broken anything, and I've only dropped one inconsequential thing. Well, let's mix up this paint, and since this is supposed to be relaxing painting with Dice and Dungeons, oftentimes I'm able to use the first half hour actually not painting, and I was able to do that today. I'm pretty happy about that. Yeah, used up a whole half hour of the stream, well, not a whole one. Yeah, I started late, so I've used 20 minutes. Okay. I'll try this with my glasses on. I'm going to have to put on my head magnifiers later when I start getting into the detail. Okay, so we're going to see how this paint works. Like I said, I'm using it on this is a big model. I'm not used to dealing with something this large anymore, especially having worked on a submarine. I want to make sure that I get the whole of the bone, I guess. With the wing covered down into this little valley here. And then I can paint up to it when I do the webbing. Try to figure out where the demarcation line should be. Paint is pretty good, I think. You know, I thinned it about right. And I get down to the claw there, because there's a little ridge of like the flesh that goes over the tip of the claw. It's almost like painting, doing a large surface like this. Instead of dabbing, it's frequently what happens. It's just doing little dots of paint. This is actually spreading the paint. So as I get down to the body here, it's like, do I paint the whole body the same red, or do I do the body of the model, like right here where the wing meets? I'm not going to paint it red yet. The scarlet, this dark scarlet red, I'm not going to do that yet because I'm not sure if I want the body to be the same color as the wing ribs. Not really ribs, of course, they're like fingers. The wing fingers. Glad I'm doing these first because I am not staying between the lines. You know, as we would say if we were doing a coloring book kind of thing. Not between the lines kind of work here. Which is coming apart on me, kind of. The bristles are just like sticking out all over the place. I'm not quite sure what's up with that. It didn't start that way, but it is now. I might end up having to trim it, maybe. Starting on the wings, a couple of reasons. One reason, I'll have to decide on that. So what I was looking at there is the way the claw is done on the front. Okay, if you look at it, there's a claw here, obviously, but it looks like there's a fleshy sheath up to it. And so that's just the claw there. But on the other hand, I'd like the whole claw to be the claw color. So I'm only going to paint up to there and then decide when I get the claw color out. That's about where I want it to start. I'm starting on the wing because it's a large surface area. I can test the colors and see how they're going to work. I don't have to be too terribly skilled at this point in terms of the application of the paint. So the way this looks is there's this Wyvern. Yeah, and I don't know. So when I was a kid, I had like one brush, right? Maybe I had two, but I remember I had like one paintbrush, and I was using Testor's enamels, and so everything had to be cleaned in alcohol. I couldn't just wash them off between colors in water. No acrylics then. It will work on one thing starts, another thing ends. And since I've been doing this, I've like worn out 3 brushes, especially the detail brush. So I got some new really fine pointed brushes, but it's this sort of mid-range, and this is a really good size for this, but the bristles are just coming apart. I think maybe I'm not taking care of it right or something. Maybe I'm a failure at brush maintenance at the moment here. Stuff I squeezed out is starting to set up in the palette, so I'm going to have to clean this brush. My hand is not steady today. Squeeze out a little more paint and clean the brush. Maybe restore it to its intended dimensions. And then, as you can see, each time I use this brush, it just gets worse. So I'll stop here. What used to be nice straight lines have now turned into wavy, ragged lines. Hi, Iriku. Thank you for joining. This is Relaxing Painting with Dyson Dungeons. And I am attempting to paint a wyvern. This is a how not to show. I have here a very low-tech, not studio, it's just a work surface on a workbench. And what I do is prepare minifigs and dungeon tiles for our D&D stream. So this isn't really a painting show as much as it is, we do a Dungeons and Dragons campaign, and we need dungeons and dragons. In this case, just a wyvern. Right, we decided that if one of us, especially me lately, is going to actually be like painting these things for the D&D stream, why don't we stream that as well? And that's how this got started. So now we have relaxing painting on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. primarily for the preparation of material for the D&D campaign. And what I'm doing here is doing just the first base coat, very messily. This is going to be in a red-themed Wyvern, maybe with some metallic accents on the bottom. And I'm really not sure what colors will look best, so I'm starting out with this, and then after this dries, I'm going to be painting the webbing between with a slightly different colored red. And we'll see how it looks. And then at some point, I will attempt to do shading, because it's going to look very flat and lifeless. The demarcation line between the ribbing, the fingers, and the webbing is okay, but not really great. So part of the challenge will be to get those lines nice and straight. Good luck to me on that. And clear. Put the other color on. That will be one of those back and forth touch-up things where it's like, oh, everything is great except for the brush slipped right here. Anyway, yeah, so the ribbing is going to be this scarlet red. And then I'm going to use what's called vermilion, which is a little bit lighter, a little bit oranger, a little bit more orange. Try that, see how it looks for the webbing. And if that seems to be working okay for the wings, then I'll have to decide what to do with the body color. And minimize the number of colors on this. It's really, there's all these little spikes on the tail and this little thing on the end, plus these horns and stuff. I could end up putting a lot of colors on this, but I'm gonna try to keep it down to like maybe a half a dozen. My expectations for this, I'm going to say, are pretty low. I'm just really not that good at painting. I'm pretty good at, as I said earlier, usually pretty good at staying between the lines. Like I can get the detail colors in. If there's a line, I can stay within the line, but when it comes to actual, like, finishing, doing shading, the stuff that makes things really come alive, the hyper detail, the shading, that kind of thing, I'm not that skilled at it at all. Never had been. So that's why I've been kind of limited to just doing things that will show up later on camera during our D&D stream, because then they're shown at a distance. And I've been able to paint things in a way that actually looks pretty decent on camera. In terms of, just how it's done. But you wouldn't consider them like to be a professionally done display model. Yeah, I'm not able to do that. Nicole, on the other hand, has done some amazing things. She just is really good at detailing and shading things. You know, compared and contrasted some of the stuff she's done versus what I do, and you definitely would see the difference. But then, you know, she's a trained artist, and I am an old guy putting paint on stuff. If you're watching today, you're catching me while I'm doing a minifig, as I do now on Mondays and Fridays. On Wednesday, we have turned Wednesday into Submarine Wednesday. What does that mean? Submarine Wednesday means that I've been given permission to use this time slot, basically, to work on some models that I've accumulated in anticipation of my retirement many years ago. I retired many years ago. I thought, well, I would be bored to death, and I need something to fill my time, not necessarily in a constructive way, but, you know, avoiding misuse of time, we'll call it that way. We'll just say that. So it wasn't a constructive use of time, but at least it wasn't the destructive use of time. So I thought, well, I built models as a kid, and I really kind of enjoyed that. Let me regress in my retirement and build models. And so I have purchased way too many models, mainly World War II and later airplane models. Like I've got an SR-71 Blackbird. That's not World War II, but I got a B-29 and a P-38 and miscellaneous things like the Lotus Ford, that the first rear engine car to win the Indianapolis 500. I think that was like in 1965. You know, V2 rocket, all sorts of things. And then some cars too, like a 57 fuel-injected Corvette and a Lamborghini Super Veloce. There's some Star Trek models that actually have fiber optic lights in them. Pretty fancy stuff. Anyway, I never built any of them because, I don't know, other things came up, like making lunch, you know, reading a book. And so time got spent doing that rather than building models. Where am I going with this rambling? Where I'm going is that I decided, you know, I'm down here doing stuff Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Sometimes I don't have dungeon tiles to paint. You can hear them being printed in the 3D printers in the background, so fairly soon I will have dungeon tiles to paint again. But between now and then, I do minifigs, and sometimes I don't have minifigs, and so it was, well, you know, if you run out of things to paint, we want to keep doing the stream because some, you know, people, for some reason, are watching you do a bad job of painting things. Schadenfreude kind of thing about that, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, so it was, well, you know, if you don't have anything else, do a stream anyway. Why don't you grab one of those models off of the shelf? You can work on that. You've always wanted to build them. And you're down there now for a couple of hours every other day. Just go ahead and use the time. So I am. The first one I built it wasn't really that popular. If you remember back in the 60s, there was this guy named Ed Big Daddy Roth. He was mainly familiar for modifying motorcycles and cars. He wasn't really a good mechanic himself. He was actually more of an airbrush artist kind of person. So he was really good at painting these things, but he got himself a workshop together and started making these like hot rod kinds of things. And then he created this character, Ratfink. The model manufacturers decided to make models of the Ratfink. And then a whole bunch of other Finks got created. There's a Surfink on a surfboard. There's an Angel Fink, which is kind of like a witch character of the cauldron. There's just a whole bunch of them. I think there's like 10 or 12. I made most of those when they came out originally in the 60s. My mother did not like them. Did not understand why. I thought they were kind of clever and funny. Anyway, yes, I built those. Anyway, one of the first ones I did that wasn't a D&D related thing was a Fink Eliminator. And I did that because I actually had started it after I retired, and then it sat on a shelf without being touched for over 5 years. And so, you know, it was already partially started, so I did that. Yeah, didn't really catch on that well. I guess people who are watching relaxing painting didn't. Maybe it's hard to understand the Ratfink kind of thing nowadays. It's not like it was new and clever and things back in the mid 60s. But anyway, I did a Fink Eliminator and it came out really quite well. It was a little bit harder than I remembered when I was a kid. Maybe because I was, paying attention to the detail more than I was then. Okay, what I want to do here is the webbing comes down to the spines, okay, and I want to make sure that I'm painting down to the spines and there aren't any gaps. Because what I don't want to have to do is like paint the webbing and then say, oh, this dark red didn't go far enough. And then have to touch up little spots of the fingers, not because I got the lighter colored paint on them, but because they were never painted in the first place. If there's little spots around the claw tips, I guess that's okay, but it's mainly down in these areas here, so that the paint went far enough. So yeah, here I am just kind of filling the time with a monologue. That's what I do, because otherwise you just hear the music, which is quite nice. I think the music is good. Sometimes I'm quiet so you can just listen to the music. Sometimes I am attempting to explain why there is such a thing as Submarine Wednesday. Well, as I was saying, I was given permission to work on these models when I didn't have any D&D related stuff to do, because it was waiting to be printed and primed, or the minifigs didn't come off of the rosin printer yet. For whatever reason, there wasn't any D&D related thing to do, and so I was given permission to work on these models, and I worked on the Fink Eliminator and got that done. And then it's like, well, what do I do now? And there was one of the models that I built that I really thought was a cool model. It was a 1960s Renwall cutaway submarine, and it's a model of the first ballistic launching submarine, the George Washington. That was actually the prototype of it, the Polaris launching submarine. And it was never it was never reproduced, and so I actually ended up buying original 1960s models. I say models plural because finding one that hadn't been started turned out to be really difficult and expensive. But since I was going to build it and not just display the model in the box, a lot of model collectors will do that. They'll get a box, where the box is pristine and the parts are still in their trees and plastic bags and things, because they're actually collecting the model, not building the model. Well, I was going to build it, so I was looking for kits, that had all the parts. And a lot of them had already been started. This model, if you've been watching Relaxing Painting on Submarine Wednesdays, you can see why a lot of especially younger people would buy this model and then do like steps 1 and abandon it because it's a real challenging model. The parts are small. There's a lot of them. They're difficult to paint. They don't fit very well. Okay, there's a lot to be said about it not being a very good model in terms of its assemblages, assemblability, buildability. Monday morning's really kicking in here. Anyway, there's a lot to be said about how difficult it is. And, well, anyway, I decided I bought 3 of these kits, hoping that together I would have enough parts to make one. And so far, I started with the one kit that seemed to be most intact and not messed up yet with early attempts at construction. The early attempts at construction consisted either of painting, usually very, very badly, and since it was the 60s, they were using the same paints I used, which were Testors enamels. They blobbed up. They were not very thin paints. They were thick paints, so they blobbed up, showed brush marks. Not very carefully done, and next to impossible to remove without dissolving the plastic underneath. Anyway, so I started one that, the other thing that happens is that sometimes modelers back then would start them by gluing the pieces together without bothering to paint them because they either didn't have the paint or it turned out to be too hard or whatever. So I started one that was just one piece was badly painted and torpedoes, and just sanded them down. That worked. But it seems to have almost all the parts. The thing, though, is that the parts were very badly produced. What I'm going to try to do now, and I'm saying try because we'll just have to see how this goes, is I'm going to paint the webbing between 2 of these. And I have to take my glasses off because I can't see up close very well with the glasses on. Always like this little spot that hasn't been painted, right? Now there's going to be touch up with like that, where I just like maybe missed a tiny little dot, right? Like here and here. There's actually quite a few of these. I'm going to do that quickly. Just go look around it for unpainted spots. Anyway, I bought 3 of these. It turned out to be a good idea. I've used 2 of them so far. The one I'm working on with most of the parts intact and not painted or glued. But there was a second, but some of the parts were like really badly warped, or, as we'll be seeing fairly soon, very badly molded. There are a couple of things, highly detailed control panels in the control room that the mold, when they were injection molded, didn't fill with the plastic. And so they're like caved in. You can tell that anyway, yeah, the part is really badly distorted. So I've been and some of them were really badly warped. Like the floor of the mess hall had this huge curve, just like that, unusable. So I've been trading out some parts that haven't. That is, I've been putting the parts that don't work or are badly molded in replacing them, taking the parts from the other kit that are good and swapping them out. So far I've used 2 of the 3 kits, and I'll probably be continuing that. Okay, there are these long sweeping areas here that require a very clean demarcation line. On one hand, it's like maybe a tiny little brush would be a good idea. On the other hand, the tiny little brushes don't carry enough paint to be able to sweep across. So let me see what I've got. I've got this one here. I've used this with washes. The bristles are a little stiff, but I think that might work. I'm doing the underside because if this color combination doesn't look good, it won't show that much when I paint it and try a different color. But mainly what I'm concerned about is just even getting the paint into the places where I want it and not where I don't. Well, there's nothing to be done other than to try it. Anyway, so I had run out of things to paint. There were no more dungeon tiles. Those minis hadn't been printed yet. And so, well, go ahead, work on the submarine. I was given permission to do that. And the submarine is going to take a very long time because of the number of parts and the kind of detail and just, the difficulty of the model. And so we created Submarine Wednesday so that at least once a week, in the past there had been 2 days a week, but at least once a week, I can actually make a little bit of progress each week on building this submarine. So that's why we have Submarine Wednesdays on Relaxing Painting with Dice and Dungeons, because, unless for some reason this gigantic fervent tech operated in, I don't know, maybe that will happen. This gigantic submarine will show up on the D&D stream. That would just be weird. But you never know. Weird things have happened on our D&D stream. So this paint looks like it's just not going to work at all in terms of color, but I think when it dries, it looks better. I'm silent here as I make an effort to put the paint where I want it. What I'm going to do is just paint this one, and I'm going to let the paint dry, and then see how it looks. Brush is working okay so far. The demarcation line is somewhat arbitrary, and I'm hoping that with the shading that I will attempt to do later, that little variations won't show very much. So for example, I'm going to be using a gray wash and kind of running it down along the boundary line so that that's really highlighted most. And then doing a lighter shading to try to pick up. There's a lot of detail, like little indentations in the fingers, but a lot of detail in the webbing. That would be good to bring out with shading if I can actually pull that off later. Well, I'm going to clean this off. I don't want to mess up the brush. That brush seemed to work pretty well for this. And as I've discovered before, it has really stiff bristles, so I wouldn't think that it would hold the paint as much, but it holds the paint tenaciously. Hard to clean it out. When I did the color samples, this has happened before, it ends up looking a lot more orange. No, maybe not. Maybe it is the color. It's just that it's against the dark red. I could try the flat red. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to paint this side with this color and then let them dry. And then we'll compare and see which one looks best. It's hard to, if I used, especially I think that if I used a brown wash, like I might use a brown wash instead of a gray wash on this. It would make it look really different. That was smoky ink stuff that we've been using really well for floor tiles. It looks really good against browns. To do this. Paper here is yellow. That's not good. You need some white paper. What I'm going to do is I'm going to test something. Okay, so I'm not sure how this is going to look, so I'm going to give this a try. Keeping in mind this is white and the primer is gray. And so I'm going to paint, use all the paint that's in the well here. I'm going to paint a color stripe. The best thing, okay? And I'm ditzing around talking about Submarine Wednesday and building vintage 1960s models and things. I want to let this dry. And what I want to do with this is I want to test 3 different washes on it. Just like semi-transparent ink paints. This is the webbing that goes, there's a lot of it. So this color is going to show a lot. But the raw color, just the plain color, may not be at all what it will look like once it is shaded. And so I'm going to do 3 different shadings on it. I'm going to use umber. I'm going to use smoky ink, which is kind of reddish. I'm going to use umber, which is a brown color. And I'm going to use dark gray, which is what we usually use to shade like dungeon tiles. I'm going to use a fairly large brush to apply the wash. To do smoky, umber. Not that I should have to label them because they should look really different from each other. So right now, I mean, that doesn't look too bad. That's a pretty good, actually not a bad color now that it's drying. It doesn't look as orangey as I feared. But I want to see what these washes before I paint a whole lot more of it and then decide that it looks terrible. I'm going to try these washes out to see if they look good. And if at least one of these works, then I will spend a good deal of time spreading vermilion paint around on the webbing of the wings. This stuff dries really quickly. It's a good thing and a bad thing about that. The good thing is that you can move along from one color to the next. The bad thing is that sometimes it'll start to set up before you got it completely on there, and then you'll end up getting brush marks. That's happened with the submarine when I'm painting fairly large areas. Large on the submarine is like that big, right? Like an 1.5 inches by 1 inch. But then what I've been forced to kind of do is just get a really big brush and put a very thin layer of paint down, let it dry, and sometimes do 3 coats. Since I'm right-handed, I'm going to go this way, and this way, so I'm going to start with the smoky ink. Yeah, so Submarine Wednesdays now have become a regular feature, and they'll stay that way until the audience reaction is enough of the submarines. Just, get some more minifigs printed, and because we really like watching that, or better yet, a whole lot more dungeon tiles. And there are a lot of dungeon tiles being produced right now. Those 3D printers behind me, there's 3 of them, are producing cobblestone street tiles. And so we have buildings, but we're going to be able to set it up so that there can be like a street between buildings, and we can have street fights instead of just in-building fights. So it's going to add another kind of outdoor dimension to our D&D combat. So this will be just a tiny little dot. Don't need very much for the test. It darkens it a lot. Maybe too much. We'll see. Anyway, for now at least, on Wednesdays, I'm continuing to work on the submarine. The work is going very slowly. The parts don't fit. They all need to be sanded and sometimes even filed to get to be in shape. The painting for me is right at the edge of my skill level. And so that's been taking quite a while. It says easy assembly. That's a lie. It's actually quite difficult to assemble, at least the parts that I've done so far. There are a whole lot of parts just kind of need to come together. And they need to line up, and you can't line up all the parts unless all the parts are cemented together at exactly the same time. It's much more transparent. This might actually work better for the webbing if I can get it to get into the depressions and not on the high points. Afraid this dark gray is going to be way too dark. I have a third one. The fourth one, which is just a very light gray. Maybe I'll put that on just as a yeah. This stuff is sometimes misbehaving. This really light gray that's not very pigmented at all. I'm gonna do that one too. This, I need like an invisibly small amount of this stuff, because you'll see that it's very dark. This would have to be applied quite carefully. I'm going to try this other stuff here right on the very end, just to see. I'm looking at this as it's drying, and I think with the wash, this actually will be a good color. If I use just the flat red, you can see the palette here. I don't know how much it shows because it's pretty shiny. It's basically the same thing as the dark gray. It just has a whole lot less pigment in it. So as you can see, when you put it on the color, it is very transparent. I'm thinking right now with this umber wash, kind of the browner tones, because what I'm going for here is, you know, the underside, there'll be some semi-metallic accents like bronze or maybe even brass or something. Smoky ink's not too bad, but it'll make it look a lot darker. So maybe with the umber wash, if I can get it like a lot of, if I can outline this in these little troughs here, the low spots right along the edges that would highlight things, and then if I can spread it nicely so that it gathers in the low areas, I brush across the grain, so to speak, that would look okay. I think this just gets too dark, and I want it, if it's going to get dark, I want it in the brownish rather than the blackish kind of realm. And part of it too is, I don't know, I think I need to do this. I need to try the other red and test it to see. Now I know this color, if it works, it's going to cover the vermilion really well because it's darker. What I don't know is if this doesn't work, whether the vermilion will cover this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to test it on the paper. Okay. So sometimes what we do on relaxing painting is try to figure out what we're doing. I'm going to paint a sample swatch here, fairly large one, and I'm going to put it up against the edge of the paper so that I can hold it up against. Well, actually, I'm going to do two things. I want to see how the washes, if this is a color I'm going to use, I want to see how the washes work on it. I have to do two coats on this. I'm talking my way through this because I have not really prepared for this session today. I'm going to get this brush out, and I'm going to, right next to this one, paint a part of it. This paint is not covering very well. I think it just needs a lot more mixing, maybe. Like at the same, it's too thick and too thin at the same time. It's like gumming up. I don't know, sometimes the consistency of the paints just are difficult. I think this color is maybe a little better, but the paint isn't very workable. I have another red, and I'm going to give that a try as well. So there's just so much of this surface area. I want it to work out. I want it to look good. This other red as well. How can it be both what? Oh, too thick and too thin? Okay. Well, let me explain, the weird dynamics of this paint. Is that it shows the brush marks. It doesn't level very well because it's viscous. Okay? But at the same time, it isn't covering. So it's too thin in the sense of covering the surface very well. Almost like I need to put thinner in it. Anyway, that's a Viejo red. This is a Tamiya red. Almost exactly the same color on the color charts, but we'll see how it behaves and looks in practice, right? Just going to use it because we're comparing and contrasting. I'm going to do a real comparison and contrastion here. So I'm just going to paint it here. That dry. I'm going to paint it here. This is for testing the washes. As this dries, it will be almost indistinguishable from the other red. This is a good way to use up the time. Maybe it's not a good way. It is a way to use up the time. But I want this to look okay when it's done. But right now, I know on my monitor, it really makes things look a lot more orange than they do otherwise. So the reds, the vermilion is a nice color, but it looks too orange. The red, I think, is a better color. We'll see what it looks like with the washes on it. This, if I'm going to use a red, it's going to be this red, not the Viejo red. It covers a little bit better. Viejo red is way translucent. Anyway, we're watching paint dry here. Intentionally watching paint dry so that I can test different washes on this. And so why not? I'm going to label them. Smoky ink, the umber, the gray, and the light gray. Try to get the brush clean. Regardless of the color, this is the brush I'll be using to apply it. So the Tamiya is a little bit oranger than the Viejo, but it covers better. And if you look at it on the model itself, yeah, you can't see too much difference in the colors. So the real test is, do I use this red color, or do I stick with the vermilion? Yeah, this is how you test paint, right? Yeah, that was a highly professional thing to do. Yeah. At least I didn't have an uh-oh moment here. I'm looking forward to having my uh-oh button, though. I've mentioned this before, the Stream Deck is way at the back of the work table, so I can't reach it without reaching over stuff. I don't know. You know, who 128 plays a Tabaxi Bard and is actually one of the most effective players in combat. I play Ulseth Relfa Furbog Fighter, you know, large and sort of powerful and can take damage. Basically, I'm kind of an attack tank. Okay, but the Tabaxi Bard does amazing crowd control, either by using Tasha's hideous laughter, which incapacitates the creature that we're attacking, makes them prone, they can't respond, or Vicious Mockery, which does sort of the same thing. They both are very effective crowd control spells. Which, probably, you know, if you've played Dungeons and Dragons, crowd control is really important and saves our butt a lot by putting one of the mobs we're fighting out of business, which turns out to be a really important thing. So I'm going. I know, Vicious Mockery hasn't been working that well. You know, and Tasha's hideous laughter has been let's just say it's worked, but there's no reason why it should have. It's like, I am mocking you, saying words that, you know, what was Tasha's hideous laughter is, I need to tell a joke. I am making you laugh. I'm making, this is a Nines voice. Nines is the Tabaxi Bard's character. You will laugh and fall on the floor because this is funny. And that was actually, my impression was actually better than the one that was real, in terms of how funny it was, but it worked. And then the mob fell on the floor laughing like 3 turns and saved their butt. So I'm thinking crowd control is really important. So if you charm a monster, what happens? Is it like persuasion or something? You get to make them do something that you want them to? I don't know the spells. If you charm a monster, they decide that you're their best friend. They want to go out on a date with you. I'm not sure how it works. I think crowd control is more important than damage right now. We've got this NPC companion, Holwyn, who's, what, a ranger? Puts hunter's marks on things, hits them with their bow. Does a lot of damage. Just devastated one of the mobs that we ran into recently. Yeah, so I think we've got 2 damage dealers. Zoria on Sewell the Druid can do damage, turns into like an elk or something. But also does crowd control and healing. I need to do that. There's still a lot of this left. I don't need to pour out more. This is the dark gray wash. This would have to be used very carefully in terms of quantity. So in terms of color, after playing around with this some, I'm not seeing, there's not a huge difference between this red and the vermilion. And I think I'm just, after all of this, of just the uncertainty of it and trying different colors, being the added advantage to going to this slightly redder color. I think that with the umber wash, both of these, that it tones down the cover. Yeah, I think after all of that, I'm just going to stick with what I was originally doing. But I'm glad I tested the different washes though, because I was going to use a gray wash on it originally, and it just looks better with the umber. I have more control over it too. It's not quite as dark, so I could like layer it if I need to. What have I got? Like 20 minutes yet before I can really take a break. I'm gonna put some more vermilion paint on. Decided to stick with that. Make sure it's thoroughly mixed. You know, on camera, this red looks a little bit better. Just having a hard time deciding here. Yep. There's two different colors of red here that are almost indistinguishable, but that's the one I would use. And that color is really close to this. It's just a little less orange. Whatever. I mean, you've got to move on with it. So I'm just going to stick with this. I mean, it's just I may or may not even end up using it. So it's just, just get on with it, paint it. If it doesn't look right, get out the spray can of primer and change the color. I mean, just start over, right? There's always that option of just starting over. If I am told later, your Wyvern really looks crappy, why did you use that color? I'll say, well, why not? You know, I did a bunch of testing and that's how it came out. It's behaving well. That's an important thing too, is that given the limitations of my skill. I keep saying that because I do need a good excuse to explain why it is as things either turn out or don't turn out the way they do. Is that given the limitations of my skill, which is the combination of basically it's like, is my hand steady and can I see what I'm doing? And if I can, is my hand steady enough to pull it off? That combination of things of limited vision and limited steadiness, you know, is just a little bit of a challenge here. This dries, it's not a bad color, and I think with the umber wash, it'll actually end up looking okay. So the next test is how well it will cover these other colors that I tried. Fortunately, I tried them on the bottom of the wing where it's not going to show very much. This tapered brush has been working pretty well. It allows me to get a fairly nice straight line, but it's also broad enough so that when I'm painting, I can spread the paint across pretty well. You know, and I'm looking at this and just the demarcation line's not bad. I got a little too much right here. I think maybe up a little too high on finger spine. Okay, well, we'll just keep doing this. Get the bottom of the wing done and then make a judgment about how it's looking. Should probably look up at some point, make sure that I'm staying on camera. That's kind of a periodic problem. Yeah, it is mostly on camera. That's good. These pointy bits comes together there. I tried using this brush on the submarine when I was painting the bunks, which were quite challenging, and it didn't work very well. It seems to be working on this pretty well, at least, this particular application of paint. There's a little unevenness in coverage, but I think that's okay because I want it to look a little uneven. Okay, so that's mostly not too bad. Just do the edges here. Trailing edge of the wing here. Make sure that's painted too. And then somewhere along here we have to figure out where the body is and where the wing starts, but that's a different challenge. Okay, well, that's one side. Let's go over to the other side and attempt to do it almost, at least as mediocrely as that. Making up words. Mediocrely? Adequately? See, adequately is a nice word. You can say that, right? It's adequate. Do it adequately. It's mediocre. Do it mediocrely. You don't have the adverb form of it available, like adequately. That's an oversight in language. We're going to fix that by creating a word to describe what's happening here. Okay. One could say that the paint job here is adequate, so I've done it adequately. One could say the paint job here is mediocre, and we are now going to officially proclaim it was done mediocrely as a relaxing painting with Dyson Dungeons official word. So maybe, if Chat GPT, whatever version of it is out there, 4 or whatever, wants to train itself, it should go to like YouTube, okay, and just keep playing this stream over and over again. And before you know it, mediocrely, will be showing up in all sorts of like legal briefs and term papers. Whatever it is that Chat is plagiarizing today. And I say that with confidence because since Chat has not created any original content, okay, it's just basically regurgitating stuff it has been trained on, by definition, everything it produces is in some sense a plagiarism. Okay, that it's all based on the work of others. I think that that's kind of like a big cheat. I'll editorialize. I'll probably go, oh yeah, Dyson Dungeons is not going to get sued by who knows what. So I'll just shut up. I won't say anything more. Yeah, it's an opinion, okay? It's like if I say I think, that's just my opinion. It's a whole spot I missed when I painted it with the dark scarlet red right there on the side. Just asking the question. That's all I'm doing. Of course, one could say that everything everybody says is a form of plagiarism because we are using words that have been used before. Except mediocrity. That's a word that's exclusive. That's an exclusive to relaxing painting with Dyson Dungeons. Maybe I should just let the music play for a while. I'll just stop. I'll just stop talking here for a little while so as not to create any kind of problems for our stream. Stop asking questions or expressing opinions and just get this paint on the wings here. Okay, I'm going to finish these last two webs just to get it done. These last two webs, just trying to get the paint out of the, because it absorbs a fair amount of paint. And then I'm going to take a break. And come back and do the same thing I'm doing here. Maybe a little bit better, less mediocrity. Modify it by saying more or less mediocrity on the top. Well, actually, The thing is right now is that paint, the consistency of the paint, it might be too thick for me to finish the last web. No, it's really close to not being usable. As I'm looking at it from this side, this needs to be up closer to that finger. It's a lot more relaxing when I'm not talking, isn't it? Looking up, making sure the music is still playing. Yeah, it's at least the counter is telling me that it thinks it's playing. Just be able to finish this last web. It looks like, yeah, it's weird. There's a little flaw in the print right there on the tip of the claw. And I have to fix that, and I'll probably do that. I'll do that just before the break here. Ooh, that might be ironic. I might break it just before the break. Give extra meaning to the word break. So now that the entire wing is done, mediocrily, that color is not too bad. I think when it's washed, it will look okay. We'll just let that dry. There's no more usable paint left. I'm going to make a real attempt to clean this brush, because if there's paint that sits in there during the break, it is going to make the bristles way too stiff. Paint kind of builds up right at the base of the bristles there. And I'm looking at the entire wing. It looks kind of threatening, which is kind of a good look. It's an okay look for what I'm trying to do. So there's little bits here where I may need to put the dark red back on again. There was one spot here where it didn't get painted at all, like right here on the tips. So I'm going to wait until I get the other side done, because if I'm going to do touch-up, I'll probably have to be doing touch-up in both directions. I mean, on both sides. Okay. And then I'm going to have to decide what to do with the body color. Okay, like right around in here. really, this is going to call for some really good shading. I hope I can pull that off. Okay, just so that there's a little bit of a contrast, I might go with the flat red that I didn't like for the wing. I try to use that on the body. Kind of a base coat. And then what I might do, this might actually work. What I might do, there's a lot of rough surface texture here, is I might, especially with all of this, is I'm going to try to dry brush. Oh, that should be a challenge. I bet it. I wonder if I can make it work. Around here is I'm going to try to dry brush a metallic on it. And we've got some nice brass colors that I could use that are a little bit bright. I've got a bronze, and it might be a little too dark. But I'm going to try to do that. But for now, I'm going to take a break, and I will be back. I think you're right. Okay, I think this is going to be like a wyvern, right? But I want you to, like, who is suggesting, is using, like, not purple. This in here. Yeah. So imagine this wyvern. Just imagine it with, like, the fingers on the fingers on the wings being like azure. Okay. And then the webbing hot pink. Okay. And then the body can be various shades of, like, royal purple, maybe with some, I don't know, maybe red or blue highlights or accents. So what we need to do is we need to ask Alexis to 3D print on the rosin printer. That's where this came from. The 3D print another wyvern. Okay. And then I will do it I'll do a hot pink webbing with inappropriate colors for the rest of it. That would be a thing. Okay. It might be after this is done, and after Submarine Wednesday. Well, this isn't going to be finished today, so on Friday I'll be coming back to this, and then I'll work on this beast, I think, a little bit yet during this stream, depending on how the rest of this goes. I might do the repair on the tail, where there was just a blob that got printed on it. I can cut and file and sand that down so it will be unnoticeable. Oh, look at that. There's support string there inside the mouth. Oh, that's gone. That's kind of like how I broke the cloak on one model earlier, is by doing something real simple like that. Yeah, so hot pink purple kind of wyvern. Not sure what school of magic that would come from, but it certainly would be startling. I'm going to be taking a break. I will be back around 12:30 Eastern Daylight Time to do this to the top of the wings, and then begin to do some body color. And we'll see how it goes. I'll do a base coat on the body, and then be using other colors to do some highlighting and touching up. So, see you in a bit. Thank you so far for joining in. Become a follower, become a subscriber, go to patreon.com/DysonDungeons and become a patron. All of that is most appreciated. See you in 20-25 minutes. Finally back. Sorry about the delay. We have a couple of dogs, and they decided that they needed to go out just as I was heading back downstairs to the studio here. Well, the workbench anyway. Yeah, so now nature calls, and it's important that that their nature call goes outside. So that actually looks okay. I think that's pretty decent. And so now I'm going to paint the tops of the wings the same vermilion color. This was a 2 coffee morning. I'm finally sort of awake. Now I'm hydrating. Okay. As I've been pulling things out, I've just been putting them around. You can't see it all. But let's just say that the space around me is enclosing. As I sort of pile things up instead of putting them away. During break, I did get some advice about painting the rest of it. And so I'm actually going to try that. Advice from Nicole, who is actually an artist, who had artistic advice about some of the shading and things that could be done with this. So I'm going to paint the vermilion on the top of the wings, and after I'm done with that, I'm going to do a little bit of touch-up because there's some spots that aren't covered. Oh yeah, sorry about that. I really need to fix this, and I hope that this goes okay. You can probably see it. There's just a piece molded on here that needs to come off. Yeah, I'm just able to scrape it off, and then I can touch that up a little bit. Anyway, yeah, I'm going to get the vermilion on and then do some touch-up with the scarlet red. And then there was a suggestion of using like an orangish, yellowish color and doing like flamey streaks on the webbing. I have no idea if I can pull that off or not. Sometimes I'm able to do those kinds of things, and sometimes they just don't work at all. If it doesn't work, okay, that's really not good there, and that's going to be hard to touch up. Sorry, I'm going to take a little bit of a digression here. This is just a bright spot right there. Okay, that wasn't a paint issue. Weird, that was actually a little piece of plastic that had just sat there. I should have tested that first, I suppose. was a piece of debris, not a failure of paint. Anyway, the break took longer than I was planning because our dogs decided that they needed to take their break just as I was finishing mine. Okay, so we'll get some vermilion paint out. This will take a couple of applications because there's a fair amount of surface area here. And we'll see how we're doing with the time when we get near the end of the Wyvern painting here. I'm anticipating actually that just the way this is going and the speed at which I get things done, which is slow. One might say it's just deliberate. I'm being deliberate in my painting, but the reality is I'm just slow. Yeah. So when I get the tops of these wings done and then get the scarlet red touch up, which is the dark color here of the fingers supporting the webbing. You're seeing a spot there. Once I get those done, that might be about all I'm going to be able to pull off yet today. At least I'll have something to do on Friday, for sure. Friday I'm going to be continuing Wyvern work. I'm definitely not going to be coming close to finishing this today. Get the point there. Yeah, well, I knew I would go over a little bit, but otherwise I couldn't reach it. Yeah, not coming anywhere close to finishing this today. But I'll get the webbing done, and I'll get the scarlet red, which is the dark color of the fingers. I'll get that touched up. What I won't be doing, other than maybe testing this idea about highlighting the wings that I got during break, other than trying that out, see how I can do, it's probably what I'll be finishing with today on Relaxing Painting with Dice and Dungeons. And then Wednesday will be Submarine Wednesday, and Friday will be resuming the work. But the idea is to take some yellowish orangish paint, like not necessarily bright yellow, but slightly orange version of yellow, and doing like flamey streak marks, wings. Yeah, I was given some hints about how one can pull that off. I mean, one hint, of course, is to use a little bitty brush. Oh my, okay, that just went very badly. That's definitely major touching up there. As I tried to get the point there, right at the tip of the webbing. So I was chattering instead of painting, and just made a mess of that. Fortunately, there's touching up opportunity here, and I'll be able to put that back the way it should look, I hope. And there's always that, you know, where does one color start and end? And I think it went over a little too far here on this side. So I'm seeing quite a number of opportunities for improvement here when it comes time to do the touching up. But I want to get that done before I try to do those fiery streak highlights that Nicole suggested. But I think in order to get up in here, there's just no alternative but to paint up a little too high onto the veins, the fingers, and then come back down to them during touch-up. And the nice thing about this brush that I'm finding in this particular case, and it wasn't the case with the submarine, but it is with the wing here, is that all the bristles, yeah, let me just see if I can remember how to talk. It'll be just a second here. I'm trying to reboot here and figure out how to talk again. The bristles are relatively stiff, but they hold a fair amount of paint, and so when it comes time to like making a line, I can more than just dab it like I do with a really tiny brush. It can actually, as you saw, it kind of move right along. Hope that works with the touch-up too when I come back in the other direction with the other color, the darker color. I was kind of aware of that as I started painting this, is that it's hard to tell exactly where one color should go and the other should stop. I mean, the model looks like it has a pretty clear demarcation line for that, but it's not that clear when it comes time to actually painting. A little give and take, we're back and forth here. After I get this color on, not just get the line smooth, but get it in the right spot. Like right along there, that went really well. Further up, right around there, it didn't. Fortunately, this paint dries really quickly, and so I'll be able to come back with the scarlet red and do the touch-up yet during this stream. By the time I get done with the other wing, this will be dry, and if I start the touch-up on the bottom, which is already dry, I did that before the break, There's a lot of ridging here along the top. It wasn't quite so pronounced on the bottom. It's going to be making those orange fiery streaks a little bit more difficult. But we kind of along the top in places and along. So yeah, see that? Just came up a little too high. It's one of those things that look good from one direction and not the other. Right. Yeah, these colors will work out okay. I'm glad that that's the case. This paint, this vermilion paint, is just a whole lot easier to work with than either of those two reds. Just in terms of its consistency, so it brushes easily and consistently, and it covers adequately. I can say adequately here as opposed to mediocrely. Mediocrely is the word that's applied to my painting, not to the paint. I'm painting mediocrely, but the paint is covering adequately. In here, these are the parts that need major touching up, because getting just to the point there is nigh on impossible without getting it up onto the dark red. When I do the touch-up, I think I'm going to go on and use the tiny pointed brush, because I'm going to be just doing little spots of color. I think this brush, although it's working well here, won't be that good for the touch-up. It's a little bit broad, and I have this habit of, as I'm painting up to a surface, getting paint back down onto the adjacent on the other side. And that's the opposite of what I'm trying to accomplish here. Oh, yeah. We really need that uh-oh button sooner than later. I'm getting this feeling that when I get back to the submarine, especially when it comes time to cement it together, because there's like these little parts that are supposed to fit together, but they all have to be done in the right sequence and not in the right order, but at the same time, really close together in terms of time, because one's position depends on the position of the other, and they all need to fit together. That would be a good time to have an uh-oh button. The thing about the model cement, well, is it holds really well because it's really a welding. It actually melts the plastic, the polystyrene plastic of the model, and the two pieces melt and then harden. So it's like a weld. And it becomes one continuous piece of plastic. It's not instantaneous though, so there's some modelers prefer using super glue because it's like instantaneous. It sets up as soon as you put it on. And there's a real advantage to that because then you don't have to hold pieces for like 5 minutes or something while they set enough so that they don't start moving around. On the other hand, it sets up right away. That's the advantage, but it's also the disadvantage because if you don't get them in exactly the right spot, you're stuck. They are going to stay where you put them. And if it's not where you wanted them, it's a problem. Whereas the model cement gives you, in some ways, almost too long to manipulate the parts. With this particular model, that's really critical. Because you cement some parts together, and then the instructions say, well, it's still tacky, okay? Which means that it's sort of holding, but it hasn't set yet. Spread them apart and get them to fit into those other parts. So they know that the assembly is a little bit on the difficult side because you have to cement a couple of parts together and then manipulate those so that they fit into another section of the submarine. And you can't do that if it sets up right away. And they know that if you cemented these together and that you couldn't move them, you could never get it to fit into the larger substructure. You couldn't get your substructure to fit into the larger structure. But basically, you need to cement things together and then pry them apart. That's pretty much what the instructions say, in order to squeeze them into another section of parts that are cemented together. Experienced that with the sail or the conning tower, where there were like 5 different parts that all needed to fit together in perfect alignment, but you couldn't get them aligned until they were put into the hull, and when you put them into the hull, then they weren't aligned, and it was just a lot of manipulation. Actually, what ended up happening is that parts of them are not even cemented in, they're just being held by friction, which is okay with me, because if I were to try to pry them apart to put cement on them, it would have been a mess. So there's little bits here, tiny little bits, where the paint looked fine from one direction but not the other. mainly in one direction because of the way I'm holding it, I guess. So before going on, I'm going to just go around the model to make sure I haven't missed any places that need to be this vermilion color. Edges here, just little spots here and there, since paint is still out and usable. And then I'm going to pull out the darker red, the scarlet red, and begin the process of touching up. Maybe I will just, I don't know. It's tempting to keep using this brush for that. What I'm supposed to do, according to Nicole, is I'm supposed to get kind of like an orangish, yellowish paint. I'll have to look at my color chart. And put just a little bit on a brush, a fine tip brush, probably not this, but maybe even a finer tip. And I'm starting at the back, swoop up to create little lines of fiery color. I don't know if that's possible. I mean, I know it's possible. I don't know if it's possible for me to do that. But I can try. And if worse comes to worse, since I'll be painting this vermilion color, I'll just repaint it. Build up on the base of the bristles here. This is where I will be pulling out the isopropyl alcohol. Sealing itself really well. Okay, there's a rubber seal on the inside, and I guess that's good because then we don't get vapors, explosive vapors down here in the basement workshop. I will not call it a studio, it's a workshop, okay? Because clearly this is supposed to rotate and then stay, but the little knob on the top here that's supposed to hold it tight doesn't. This is not an expensive setup. It's an adequate setup. It's got all sorts of little springs and arms and things that rotate and all sorts of stuff on it. But that one bit of that holding the rotation of the lens. Wow, there is a lot of paint in here. And, like I said, an advantage and disadvantage. The advantage is if it holds a lot of paint, one can spread it nicely. The disadvantage here is that getting it out is a little bit of a challenge. I'll tear the bristles apart while I'm doing it, which is one of the things that happens. Bristles lose their coherence. That one there, the edge becomes, I don't know. Okay, I just keep breaking brushes. I need to get lessons in brush maintenance. Okay, Scarlet Red. I think I'm going to switch brushes to something that doesn't hold quite as much paint, because I'm going to be just doing dabs and anyway, just little bits of paint, and hopefully I can get those lines the way I really want them to look without having to come back in the other direction again, at least very much. Start here. Oh yeah, I'm going to definitely put my head magnifiers on for this. Not just to be able to see, but to get more light on it. It has one of these nice little LED lights on it. Things look bigger, which is good. It makes things lighter so I can see them. Makes me look peaky. Is that, I don't know if that's the right word or not. Yeah, I mean, it's really good for seeing up close like this. That's very helpful. The problem is there's always a problem with everything, right? One problem is that it helps see things in focus like that, but it's definitely not in focus like when I look over to the paint well here. A little bit headache inducing, just a little bit. Really? See, that's the thing. Then you get to see major flaws you couldn't see before, too. And one of them is, like right here, as I'm looking at it, there's an entire, like, chunks of the edge that weren't painted. Go up under 2x magnification, but weren't there under the naked eye. Okay, just let that sit there. That's not good for it either, but yeah, it's really really impressive how many flaws there are under 2x magnification and better lighting. Fortunately for me, this isn't going to be viewed with 2x magnification and better lighting. Fortunately for me, this is going to be viewed during a stream at a respectful distance, I'll say. Okay. These flaws. If this were a presentation model, it would be a failure. I think as a production model, if we were to actually encounter this Wyvern, it will be adequate. But that's about it, just at the adequate level. If this were a production model, a display model, I would have been using these the entire time. Moving along very slowly like I am here. But this is relaxing painting with Dice and Dungeons for Dungeons and Dragons, and I am here painting a Wyvern that may sometime in the future show up on our D&D stream. And so I'm painting it primarily for its appearance at a distance on screen, rather than as a display model where you would want it to just be way better than what I am capable of doing. And if I were to try to make it perfect, it would not be at all relaxing. And I'm making it adequate. I am painting mediocrity at my skill level. Make an adequately appearing figure for a D&D stream. Getting the parts here where the little spiky claws stick out. Well, yeah. Under magnification, this shows much room for improvement. That is just not going to happen. But if you are relaxing while watching me mediocrely paint a Wyvern to a point of adequacy, I'd very much invite you to become a follower and a subscriber. And if you can, go to patreon.com/diceanddungeons and become a patron. And patrons of Dice and Dungeons get all sorts of cool benefits, like access to our prelims. We do like a little warm-up session before each Dungeons and Dragons episode. And they're all improv'd, so no one has any idea what's going to happen. Frequently, as it's happening, we have no idea what's happening. But you only get to see those if you are a patron by going to patreon.com/diceanddungeons. And recently, our DM has started to post DM notes. Not really the script, but the intended arc and all of the detail of what the encounter might bring. Those notes are getting posted for access by people who become patrons on patreon.com/diceanddungeons. So in some ways, I'm doing a compromise here. This level of detail will never be visible to anybody except someone looking at it under enhanced illumination and a 2x head magnifier. Okay. Okay. So on one hand, that's the only way this detail will be seen. On the other hand, it's obvious that that these touch-ups are necessary. And so I'm trying to compromise between, just extreme precision with the very, very limits of my skill ability, even with head magnifiers. Between the two of nobody will ever see this versus, someone's going to notice this. Where do we draw the line? I'm drawing this line right here. Teeny brush gives me a lot of control over the location of the paint, but it doesn't hold the paint very well like the other one did. And so, like in this particular case, it's not... My brush is going right where I want it, but there isn't any paint coming off. Maybe I should have used the other brush. Well, you can always second guess everything, or third guess or fourth guess. See, once again, that'll be covered up when I put the wash on. Of seeing a level of detail like that and not being able to really do much about it. part of it is getting fresh paint. That makes a big difference. What was happening there, and I wasn't even noticing it, is that it was drying up in the well and getting viscous. So all it was accomplishing is that it was gumming up the tip of the brush. I think, as I've said before, when I get the wash on this thing, a lot of this will tend to disappear. Especially right along the edges of the fingers, because I want to wash that to be pretty heavily. Okay, well, let me just go over this one more time to try to get some of the edges where it's definitely a problem and get those touched up. And then I'm going to let this set for a bit. And what I'm actually going to try to do I'm not sure how it's going to work. Yeah, I would say this is mediocre but adequate. Is kind of just far enough down. is I'm going to try to practice doing this thing that Nikki suggested I do in terms of little streaks, little flamey like streaks on the wings. At a respectful distance, that should look okay. Up close, under 2x magnifiers with a bright light, nah. Nah. Here, now I'm seeing things even without the magnification. Maybe I was just too close. Maybe it was just too close to see. But this, where is it? Now from one it's directional, you know. Sometimes in one direction it looks just fine, and from the other direction it looks not good. And I can keep playing with this back and forth for the better part of forever. And at some point we just say, nope, that's mediocre enough. I have succeeded in mediocrity putting paint on that Wyvern. So originally I was thinking, because of the colors, that these spikes might be gray, but I'm thinking they need to be ivory, or maybe even a little slightly darker brownish color. The wash is going to be brown now too, instead of gray. What I'm supposed to do, I'm going to try this brush. It's got a long, thin point on it. What I'm supposed to do is paint streaks. So where'd my color chart thing go? I had a piece of paper, there it is, with all sorts of different color samples and things on it, since there's already paint on it. Let me see what I've got in terms of yellows and oranges. I could do that. I could do the highlights in the pearlescent paint. Otherwise, what I've got this orange fire. That might be okay. I've got sun yellow. This is way too bright, so the sun yellow might work. The orange fire might work, but you know, I'm going to try this. The danger in doing this is that if it doesn't work, if the pearlescent paint doesn't work, It's going to be really hard to paint it over because it's very kind of thick. They're called head magnifiers. I think they're lying. I think it's a lie because, in fact, my head does not get bigger. So let's see what happens with this. I'm going to squeeze some out. This always comes out in a big blob. I can never get little bits of it out. This time it's not going to come out at all because it's blocked. Where'd my little sticks go? Get a piece of broken stick here somewhere. There. Just dried out. There's a... always something, right? Paint underneath the little cellophane thing that's supposed to keep it from doing that. Stuff is really, really viscous, extremely. If you try to cover a surface with it, it just gets totally uneven. You can't get rid of brush marks. Can't even think about getting rid of brush marks. What I found is that this works actually best as a wash or as a okay, this might, I'm thinking that's pretty close to what Nicole had in mind. They need to be longer, so there needs to be more paint on the brush. So these are supposed to be radial. The texture of the wings is across like that. These are supposed to be radial. No, it was too much. It's way too much. Yuck. Bad, 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 bad. The legs they wash off. So the idea is they're supposed to be with these tiny little streaks. It worked okay on the paper there, kind of, but they catch. They're catching the tops of those ridges. And then it's just not at all what we were thinking. Okay, just not even close to what we're thinking in terms of how it would look on the model. Once the acrylic dries, you can do that and take it off. See what I mean? If they had just been like this, I don't think it can be done with this anyway. I think it was worth trying because this would have looked kind of cool. You could get like these little streaks like that. But because of the ridges on here, this doesn't work. See, like that's perfect. Like these just little plain bits. I'm getting some. Barely touching the surface, which is barely any paint on here. There. That I could just barely touch it. If those will still show after the wash is put on or not, but I think that's kind of what, a little bit of what we were going for. So I'm going to leave those on. Like little sparks, kind of. That's what they are. Why not? And either they'll survive the wash or they won't. I don't know. It was worth the experiment anyway. You know, they look really good here, but then, you know, it's just the texture of the wing wasn't going to allow that. If it were a smooth surface, it probably would have been better, these little streaks, but it's not. So we just have some little highlights there that may or may not ever show up again. I'm going to move on now to the body. This is a little challenging. It's got all these spikes all over it. Well, actually, I'm going to go ahead with, I'm going to paint the mouth. And the color I'm going to use is going to be this red. No. Yeah, I can do the mouth, and then I'll try to do the teeth. And then I'm going to paint the claws. And then leave it at that. And that will be it for today. Because at some point, I begin to learn that doing a little bit more results in, especially near the end of the stream like this, it's just that one more thing, and that last thing turns out to be a bad idea. Using this long, fine bristled brush just to try to get into the spaces. But using this for the mouth color, I'm not going to be able to really use this on... I could use it on the body too, because the body will be washed and the mouth won't. And there's always the danger of, why are we putting so many colors on this? But I can get this done, the mouth and the tongue. And the claws. And then I don't be able to do the teeth yet, because this red has to dry. Teeny little sharp teeth. Good to do this. This is getting the paint to it. Means getting the paint on space places that don't really want it, so. And then the teeth. The teeth will get overpainted on the outside, but just up to where you want them on the inside. And that's it. Get it all over on the nose and all sorts of just messy spots. So this color doesn't cover quite as well. As the vermilion did. Thinking that there's a spot there that's not covered, and then I turn it and it looks okay. I'm not sure what the deal is. See, this is a really nice long brush, but when you're trying to paint something like that, it's too floppy. So it's like the bristles are too long. At least the way I'm able to paint. Imagine for some painters that's exactly what they would want. Okay, well, I'm going to let that be done at that moment. And then I'm going to, paint build up around there. In the last couple of minutes here, I'm going to hydrate a little more and then paint the claws. Die. Yeah, I need to find a color for the claws. Generally would just do ivory. I was thinking of like using this gray, but I'm guessing, that it really needs to be browner tone. Buff's not bad. This dark sand's not bad. Ivory, I think, is too light. This bone white. I've used the bone white quite a bit on the submarine, and even that's not too bad. It's a little bit orange. I'm going to use that color for the claws. I'm just going to keep these on because otherwise I can't really see up close, right? Well, let me stir the paint. Find it. And I know it's here because I use it a lot. On the submarine, where is it? Come on. And always in the last place you look. Clean this brush off. Put that in the well. And paint the claws. The spikes or claws on the tips of the wings. We've got one well left in the palette, and I'm going to use it for this color. Make my head big again. I shouldn't have to do this with these, but I'm going to. Yeah, see, this is why near the end of the stream, this one is nearing the 4-hour mark. The need for care becomes, well, it's just not the time to do something that's really delicate. This is just moderately delicate, these claws. But this is where things get knocked over. Paint bottles get spilled. A dangerous time, and the time of streaming is near the end. Blood sugar is low. A little bit tired, a little bit shaky. Whoa. Get a little dizzy. Why not throw that in? Because you've got head magnifiers and then not magnified. And yeah, focal lengths change. So, this has been Relaxing Painting with Dice and Dungeons. This happens from more or less 10 until more or less 2 on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Occasionally one decides to try to break the tongue with one's finger that is just painted, okay, by sticking one's fingers where they shouldn't be. Sorry. 10 until 2 Eastern Daylight Time. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, unless there's a little bit of a break for a vacation or a need to, do an appointment that can't be done any other time. Okay. Today it was like 10:05. Did I break it? Yeah, I did. I managed to crack it. We'll see what I can do about that some other time. And it still looks okay. Got the tip of it broken just a little bit. Oh. And it's just the way that is, you know? Handling these things because I have this sort of habit of when I'm holding something of sticking my fingers in a very bad place, either where I break something delicate or I stick them in wet paint. And I should be putting this like on a holder, but it's too big for the sticky tack. I wasn't able to get a piece of wood to work. But if I don't want to mess around with that tongue now because it's just too late in the stream to do something delicate like that. Paint these claws and then rotate it, because the thing that's most likely is that I would have like missed a spot. Try to grab it on the part that isn't going to break. It's when when you're touching something plastic and it goes, it's a pretty good clue that something not good happened. Oh my. Yeah. That was an oh. That was a big oh. I was, doing really quite well, and then it brought the brush up to the work and smushed it right on the edge there. I'm going to have to touch that up. I can't let that go until Friday. as I was saying, when you get near the end of a stream like this, it's not the time to be doing the most delicate work, because an will result. I had a real there. With these claws, it's really not clear where they start. We'll make an arbitrary location decision and then try to see if they're symmetric. I don't want them to go too far back on the model. So I think where they are is okay. So I need to do a couple of things with my moments here. Get this red here. This is the tongue red. And I try to touch up a little bit of the tongue where it just really got OO'd in a major way. Paint, as I've been told, is an adhesive. And so given what happened to the tongue, this will probably fix it. And it looks okay now. The other is I need to get the scarlet red out just a little bit and touch up the front of that one claw where I made a huge OO. And then resisting all temptation to do anything else at all, I need to stop. And just clean up the brush without breaking the brush and moving on. So there was this big here where the brush just slipped very badly. To D-O-O it. O's here. So just a few O's. And then there is maybe you could improve this line, but just don't touch anything anymore. Right. So I'm going to not touch it anymore. All right, take these off and wrap up. It's about 2, a little bit after. Thanks for watching. This has been Relaxing Painting with Dice and Dungeons, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from more or less 10 until more or less 2, where I will be on Mondays and Wednesdays painting minifigs and dungeon tiles that we use on our Dungeons and Dragons campaign, which streams 3 Sundays a month at 2 Eastern Daylight Time. You can also catch that on YouTube or as a podcast. These streams are also available on YouTube. Thanks for watching. If you can, thank you. If you already are a follower or a subscriber, encourage your friends and relatives to do the same. Any support is very helpful. Consider going to patreon.com/DysonDungeons and becoming a patron. Otherwise, Submarine Wednesday is coming up on Wednesday, and we'll be going back to working on the Renwall cutaway submarine model. Slowly making arduous progress with that model. We'll see what we get to do this Wednesday. Hopefully we'll be doing okay. I need to fix that. There's one little spot. There's always one more little spot where the gold, the pearlescent paint just got way out of control there. Yeah, so we're going to leave that now. Again, there's always a spot. See you Wednesday, Submarine Wednesday. Continuing to work very slowly, but continuing to make progress on the submarine. And then Friday, we'll be coming back to this Wyvern and see what we can do with it. Thanks. See you then. Bye.